Big banks are gonna get away with it again. If we're not educated and paying attention, they're gonna pull it off again. This is the stock market from 2010 till now. And if you think that this is what a recovery looks like, I'm sorry. When a bubble this big pops, you don't recover in 1 year straight up. This was 2008. The buildup, not nearly as intense of a bubble. And you might have thought, oh, we have recovered, or oh, we are recovering. Until fall hit that year and all hell broke loose. Too many of us on this app were either not alive yet or too young or too enamored with Obama to understand what actually happened in '08 and how the banks fleeced us taxpayers for billions and billions of dollars after building a problem that they solved by paying themselves with our money. But I think I can explain all the parts of this in relatively simple terms that we can all understand, even though it is incredibly complex on purpose so that the peasants don't understand what they're up to. Because I am not convinced that we have seen our last bank collapses, and I am not convinced that we have seen the end of the downside. After 2008, it took like 6 or 7 years to recover. And we all kind of know that this is fucked, but a lot of people don't actually understand why and how. Along the way today, we're going to learn about why student loans are never getting forgiven. We're going to learn about how Larry Fink and BlackRock became the most powerful company in the world. And we're going to learn about how I did not understand who I was voting for when I cast my very first presidential ballot in 2008. Before y'all go making this partisan, I'm just going to briefly drop this here. And let's get started with a little history class. It used to be that if you were going to loan me money to buy a house, you wanted to be damn sure that I could repay that, because mortgages are huge amounts of money and they get paid over super long time frames. So it's really risky for you to loan someone like $500,000 to buy a house. And there was good financial incentive for lenders to be careful. But there's this thing that Larry Fink had started in the 80s and the 90s called securitization. Larry Fink, along with a few others, is largely credited with developing the multi-trillion-dollar debt securitization market that transformed the face of finance. Just for a little sense of scale, 1980s, 2008, notice trillions? Here's the SparkNotes version. You go to your bank asking for a loan for a car or a house or whatever it is, and they loan you money. Now they're sitting on this loan that is like risky and takes forever to repay. It's not great. The rise of computers and Larry Fink putting 2 and 2 together, everyone realized that, oh, we could just package all these loans up, give them to an investment bank, which is like a lot less regulated, literally referred to as shadow banking. And that investment bank will slice all those loans up into tiny little pieces and rebundle them together into like ground beef patties of pieces of loans, which they can sell out to investors and funds and whoever the fuck will buy them. But now, rather than the bank having to sit on your mortgage for 30 years, they can just sell you a mortgage and then turn around and sell that mortgage to an investment bank, which is buying up shitloads of mortgages and car loans and whatever else, student loans, and they will make products out of it, financial products, which they can then sell as securities. This is not inherently evil. This adds tremendous liquidity to the market. This is really useful for financial markets in a lot of ways, but it enables a lot of greed. Because now all the banks selling mortgages don't give a shit how risky it is. Many homeowners had taken out adjustable rate mortgages, i.e. they had been sold adjustable rate mortgages by predatory lenders that had low introductory interest rates, but later adjusted to higher rates that they couldn't pay. When all these people weren't able to pay their higher rates, suddenly all these mortgages started to default. And anyone who blames the people that took out the mortgages has clearly not done their research. The shittier the mortgage, the higher the returns. Many bankers were explicitly predatory, selling to, quote, anyone with a pulse. Some lenders specifically targeted minorities and immigrants that did not speak English and did not understand the terms of the loan. This is where The Big Short comes in. If you haven't watched it, you definitely should. It's got all of our homies, you know, Brad Pitt, Steve Carell, Christian Bale famously plays Michael Burry, who had the audacity to just like look at the loans in these securities that were getting sold and be like, holy shit, dude, these mortgages are trash and these people are not repaying them. And people like Mark Baum, who is played by Steve Carell in this movie, started to investigate and realize that banks were making a fucking killing on selling these things. And they were actually paying the ratings agencies to give these securities really good, safe ratings, even though they were complete cat shit. And it all just happened to implode right at a presidential election. Out with the old, in with the new good guy that'll save us. Obama explicitly ran on a platform of a man for the people that would stand up to Wall Street and regulate banking. But a document released by WikiLeaks later revealed that basically Obama's entire cabinet had been suggested by Citigroup. The email was sent at the height of the meltdown. And this email shows that even as Citigroup and pals were dragging the entire global economy into a pit, they were the ones orchestrating the whole process. The banks knew this was going to happen when they sold all of this value. They orchestrated when the drop would happen, allegedly. And then here, when everyone else was screwed, Obama swooped in to save the day. And with his hand-picked cabinet of Citigroup appointees and some of the most key orchestrators of this financial bubble and collapse in senior positions of power, these recommendations came just 3 days after the $700 billion bailout bill was signed, mind you. The single biggest beneficiary was Citigroup, who all told took home almost $350 billion of taxpayer bailouts. Worth noting who were the biggest contributors to Obama's 2008 presidential campaign. That is sourced from opensecrets.org. Just for fun, it's worth noting that since his presidency, Obama gets paid things like $500,000 for a single speech from the banking world. Yes, you are reading that correctly. This is the definition of the revolving door. Are you starting to see why they don't teach you about finances in school yet? No sooner did we recover from 2008 that they just started pumping up a brand new bubble. A bubble of derivatives valued at $200 trillion. Yes, this is thousands of billions. Oh yeah, and did I mention that they're doing this with student loans? Look up student loans asset-backed securities or student loans owned and securitized, whereby they are taking your student loans, chopping them up into little pieces, putting them into little products that they're selling on the market as securities, and it has been increasing ever since 2008. It is now at $1.8 trillion of market value. They're not forgiving your loans because they're all making money off of them. Makes you wonder why college tuition prices have gone up so goddamn much compared to inflation. Kind of weird. And now this is the part where all the financial experts that went to business school come in here and are like, no, you don't even understand what you're talking about. I went to school. I understand. And they don't realize that all of those schools are funded by the big banks. Deans of those schools, the lead professors at those schools are getting massive speaking fees from those banks. They're getting research fees from those banks. The entire higher education system surrounding finance is financed by the financial system and deeply incentivized to deregulate and protect the status quo. It's all normal. Don't pay any attention to whatever the fuck this is. So here's your homework. For your next movie night, you're going to go to YouTube. You're going to type in Inside Job. The very first hit is going to be the full documentary for free, narrated by yours truly, Matt Damon. And it's going to break it down for you just how fucked up 08 was. And I'll leave you with a real gem from it. This is John Campbell, the chairman of Harvard's economics department.
Does Harvard require disclosures of financial conflict of interest in publications?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you require people to report the compensation they've received from outside activities?
No.
Don't you think that's a problem?
I don't see why.
Martin Feldstein being on the board of AIG, Laura Tyson going on the board of Morgan Stanley, Larry Summers making $10 million a year consulting to financial services firms. Irrelevant.
Yeah, basically irrelevant.
A medical researcher writes an article saying, to treat this disease, you should prescribe this drug. Turns out doctor makes 80% of personal income from manufacture of this drug. Does not bother you.
I think it's certainly important to disclose well, I think that's also a little different from cases that we're talking about here because
So yeah, I'm sure everything's fine and all, but knowledge is power, and we all need to be educating ourselves. Because if we don't, this next financial collapse is gonna go just like the last one. Or maybe worse.